of conservation of energy teaches us that nothing comes from nowhere and disappears into nowhere, although I have observed exceptions. For example, the cookies next to my monitor disappear by themselves, but this time there was a violation of a completely different scale. In 2020, we lost an entire star, one of the most massive stars in the near universe, the Colossus of the dwarf galaxy Kinman Dwarf, which just quietly disappeared into the night in a mysterious way for scientists. If I believed in omens, I would tell you that this year has really been damned. It's no coincidence that Time magazine called the year 2020 the worst in the history of mankind. But despite the natural disasters and the pandemic, throughout the year it was amazing to see how, despite the difficulties, you kept a sense of humor and joked about the situation. I think this meme is the main illustration of this year. Many people would argue with me and say that if 2020 were a person, it would be the image of a loser who got stuck in some Groundhog Day. But seriously, I'm proud of the way we endured all this madness. And if you really imagine a person who would represent 2020, it would be a human hero. They went through fire and water, survived lockdown, wore a mask in crowded places, and took care of their loved ones. I think every one of you is that character in one way or another. If you're watching this video, it means you survived this year. Congratulations, you are a hero. If 2020 were a person, they might be one of those African kids, for instance. Despite everything, they try to help their parents around the house and try to save their crops, despite knowing that this year the locusts left the people and farm herds without food supplies. Back in February, the United Nations warned the world about the incredible number of desert locusts that were spreading across East Africa and South Asia. But despite the warnings, the agriculture of countries such as Kenya and Ethiopia was soon completely destroyed. They know that now only international aid can save their family from starvation. But together with their comrades, every day they continue to fight for their future, for every surviving meter of crops, for every surviving sprout. Such people don't give up and will survive this devastating natural cataclysm. But this whole year has not been the best for them. Or this Australian woman, isn't she the personification of the 2020 person? Her life wasn't in danger, but the woman couldn't sit by and watch as she saw a koala dying in the fires and, risking herself, entered the burning bush. This koala was lucky, as well as thousands of others who were pulled from the fires, moved to a safe place, watered and fed by ordinary Australians. The monstrous natural cataclysm arose due to a unique combination of natural factors, another record temperature, and a huge number of thunderstorms with lightning, but without rain. As a result, a deadly fire broke out in many places across the country, and the consequences of this you can now watch on your screens. And perhaps the people who represent 2020 are the ordinary doctors who save patients with COVID-19. Around the world, they continue to fight for our lives on a daily basis, often in conditions of overcrowded hospitals and lack of equipment. Yes, humanity as a whole was completely unprepared for the new virus. Governments didn't understand when to introduce a lockdown. Laboratories weren't able to develop a vaccine for a long time. But no one took the responsibility away from ordinary doctors, and they courageously stood in the way of a deadly virus at the very first line of defense of humanity. In the chain of events of this difficult year, not only did a star from the constellation Aquarius vanish, but there were also a couple of attempts by strong world players to unleash another world war. But look, ordinary people all over the planet have shown that they're still ready to respond to deadly challenges. Thanks to international aid, The children of Ethiopia and Kenya aren't starving to death since locusts destroyed all their resources. Unremarkable heroes of our time risked their lives to save the unfortunate animals suffocating in the thick smoke. Ordinary medical workers are meekly withstanding double and triple loads in hospitals, best understanding that the risk of COVID-19 for them is the highest. Even the heads of powerful states, despite disagreements, are trying to agree with each other and peacefully coexist on the planet. All of these facts give us hope that humanity can overcome any difficulty and come out of these trials renewed and even stronger than before. Many even believe that the quarantine and reduced production levels caused by the coronavirus have played a positive role for nature. In China, carbon dioxide emissions into the atmosphere have decreased by a quarter. Cities have been cleared of smog, and sea turtles have been able to return to deserted Indian beaches. Perhaps for wildlife, humanity is now worse than locusts and fires, and thanks to the quarantine, it's really healing. Maybe this was just a trailer for 2021, but whatever 2020 was, we were better, and this is a fact.
The crisis is a chance to change what is long out of date,
says the founder of the world's largest hedge fund, Bridgewater Associates, Ray Dalio. First of all, we're waiting for a leap in digitalization, the use of big data technology. So, for example, in the near future, a